İtfaiye nerede? Takım yanıyor. İtfaiye çok yavaş kaldı ama.
Hey guys, welcome to our channel Uniplex. Guys, in today's video, we will be showing 7 planes that went horribly wrong landings caught on cameras, which have caused significant financial loss to people, and some individuals luckily escaped from nearby deaths. So without wasting any more time, let's start today's video. If you travel deep into the French Alps, you might just stumble upon what the History Channel calls the 7th most dangerous airport in the world. Courchevel Altiport is a small facility servicing the Courchevel ski resort in the French Alps. It features a 1,700-foot sloping runway with no lights. As you can imagine, landing is extremely difficult. On February 8th of 2019, a private pilot learned that lesson the hard way while approaching Courchevel Altiport. His Piper Malibu came in too fast, leaving him with little room to slow down. Of all the things you could crash into, a pile of snow is one of your better options. That doesn't mean it's a soft landing, though. The trick to landing at Courchevel is to touch down on the first third of the runway. The middle third is an uphill climb, which helps slow the plane. Ideally, you've slowed enough to stop when you reach the final third of the runway. According to a report, the 23-year-old captain was a freelance pilot who obtained his license 2.5 years earlier. He had recently completed the training required to land at Courchevel as a freelancer. He had only flown for 10 cumulative hours in the months leading up to the accident. It sounds like someone tried to shake the rust off by sticking 2 feet in the fire. Emergency landings are every pilot's worst nightmare. Thankfully, they have years of training and know what to do when something goes wrong. On February 10th of 2020, a cargo plane was flying over Russia when something went wrong in the sky. It's unclear what exactly happened. All we know is the pilot needed to put her down immediately. Thankfully, there was a wide open dirt road and some guys waiting on the ground. Imagine the force it takes to snap a landing gear off a plane. That's why we think this was an emergency and the pilot couldn't slow down enough. Luckily, those guys were standing nearby and were able to run and help him. It's unclear if the pilot radioed them or if they just happened to be in the area. Now came the grueling task of dragging that plane out of the field. "2015 was a bad year to be on a Turkish airplane. A string of accidents and emergency landings forced Turkish Airlines to divert and recall several flights. One of those accidents occurred on April 25th during a routine flight from Italy to Istanbul. Turkish Airlines Flight 1878 had 102 passengers and crew aboard when it attempted to land at Ataturk Airport in Istanbul. They were coming from Milan, Italy, which is about a 3-hour non-stop flight. Everything was going fine right up until the end.
İniş takım açık değil. İtfaiye nerede? Takım yanıyor. İtfaiye çok yavaş kaldı ama.
What you just saw was the second attempted landing in Istanbul. The plane originally touched down at 10:23 local time. It rolled right and landed hard on the starboard gear. The wing struck the runway, causing significant damage and a ruptured fuel line. The pilot initiated a go-around. They climbed to 3,800 feet and tried landing again. That's when passengers noticed a fire in the starboard engine. When they touched down again, the right landing gear collapsed, causing the plane to spin out. Thankfully, everyone made it off the plane safely. Landing gears are the wheels that come down from the belly of the plane. Without them, the plane would skid along the runway, likely crashing and falling to pieces. As complicated as flying is, deploying your landing gear should be the most common sense step. 85-year-old Chris had been flying without issue for 50 years. On April 11th of 2015, he boarded his private Cessna plane for a routine flight. Everything was going fine until Chris tried to land.
There's no gear. Here's your first wreck. This guy's gonna wreck. He landed on no gear down.
Thankfully, Chris got the plane back up. By some miracle, he flew 100 miles back home with damaged propellers. At least he had his landing gears out when he came down in Fort Lauderdale. It's not that Chris forgot to put the landing gears down. He was actually trying to abort the landing after he noticed he was coming in too fast. He waited too long to pull the gears back up and skidded along the runway. That ear-piercing sound is both his propellers scraping across the pavement. Thankfully, Chris and his dog made it home in one piece. Red Air is a low-cost airline operating out of the Dominican Republic. They were founded in 2020 as a joint venture between a Venezuelan airline and another Dominican company. Unfortunately, their first few years didn't get off to a good start. On June 20th of 2022, a routine flight from Santo Domingo to Miami-Dade International Airport almost ended in tragedy. A Red Air flight carrying 126 passengers and crew came in for a landing. That's when their nose landing gear collapsed, causing the plane to skid to an abrupt stop. Just when things couldn't get any worse, a fire started in the right engine. Thankfully, airport fire and rescue teams were on standby in case something like this occurred. Everyone made it off the plane safely, and only 3 people were treated for minor injuries. Ultimately, it could have been much, much worse. According to reports, the front tire popped when the plane landed. That caused the plane to bounce and come down hard on the bare landing gear. It was destroyed immediately, resulting in the plane's belly scraping across the ground. It collided with a tower crane as it skidded off the runway, which could have been the source of the fire. As of now, the cause of this crash is still under investigation. To clap or not to clap? That is the question. Some people do it instinctively, others find those people incredibly annoying. But if you must clap, at least wait for the plane to stop in front of the gate. Early clapping is a surefire way to jinx the pilot. Bravo Airways Flight Bay 4406 was full of these so-called early clappers. The plane had left Antalya, Turkey, en route to Kyiv, Ukraine. A thunderstorm formed as the aircraft approached Kyiv International. The conditions weren't great, but the crew knew how to handle them. They expected a rough landing, just not this rough. That, ladies and gentlemen, is why you wait for the plane to stop safely before clapping. Thankfully, none of the passengers or crew were injured as the cabin filled with smoke. Well, as the story goes, the crew tried to keep everyone calm in their seats. The passengers ignored that request and scrambled for the nearest emergency exit. Lion Air is a low-cost airline operating out of Jakarta, Indonesia. They're the largest privately owned airline in the country and the second largest low-cost airline in Southeast Asia. But that doesn't mean they're the best. In fact, they're the worst. They have amassed 15 serious accidents since they began flying in 1999. They added one more to the list on February 16th of 2019 when a Lion Air Boeing 737 skidded off a wet runway. Just be happy you worked on this cheap flight. Unfortunately, we missed the moment when the plane actually leaves the runway. Our cameraman probably dropped his phone to cover his head. The plane left Jakarta Airport around 2 p.m. local time. It flew roughly 500 miles before attempting to land at the regional airport in Pontianak. That's when it began downpouring, turning the runway into a slip and slide. Thankfully, everybody walked away unharmed. But because the plane was stuck in the mud, the airport had to close the runway and cancel several other flights. Guys, we have come to the end of the video. Thank you for watching the video for so long patiently. If you enjoy this video, you can like and comment, and if you want to see such strange and interesting videos, you can subscribe to our channel and ring the bell icon next to it. See you in the next video. Until then, stay healthy, stay well. Thank you.